Wow, you guys are so cool.
You're cool too, man.
Thanks.
Wow, we all have glasses.
Yeah. Well, we need them. Wait, do you need yours?
Yeah. How bad's your eyesight?
Not that bad.
Okay, I'm
Is
at
yours-
-7.
Yours are 7?
-7, yeah. I'm so blind.
Jesus, mine is minus -0.5 in one eye and -1 in the other.
It's not even worth wearing it. If
Yeah,
you're
I
just
know.
-0.1.
Well, I did a Piers Morgan thing this morning, so I like to look smart. So I put my glasses on. So I'm like,
I started wearing thicker and thicker glasses to try and look smart. Like that's been the idea. It's kind of worked. Now I got the bow tie. I'm really going for it.
I'm a coward because I got LASIK when I was 25,
yeah.
and that was the best thing I ever did at that time.
Do you say? Wait, are you public about your age?
41.
41. How do you feel about it now?
LASIK? Great. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. Haven't had any. I mean, my eyesight has definitely got worse over the years, but it's like, it was unbelievably terrible 15
My dad
years ago.
He had the LASIK and then it wore off. He's back on the contact lenses and glasses.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, how long ago did he get the LASIK?
Maybe like 10, 15 years.
There's like a whole community of people that are anti-LASIK now that will basically like tell you how dangerous it is, which I never knew about back in the day.
It'd be an L.
Yeah, it's weird because you got it a long time ago.
Yeah.
And usually people say after like 10 years it wears off, but you were going strong 15, 16 years or whatever?
No,
or 20 years?
Good for me. I got it when I was like 25, so like 16 years.
okay.
Yeah. I can't complain.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting it with the -7, but I'm scared. Like I feel like if it goes wrong, you just go blind, right? Those are the stakes that are on the table.
Yeah, but like how common does that I feel like they do so many of these procedures.
Unbelievably unlikely, right?
That's such famous last words though, and then I'm blind.
I mean, you flew on a plane here, you drove in cars here. You go to a
Yeah, what is like a detransitioner for LASIK? Because maybe that could be like your whole brand. You can make that your internet
Well,
personality.
I'm blind, like Monkey B.
Do you have topics written down?
No, you
Oh.
just messaged me. You're like,
Oh, okay. I was just wondering. You got your little like laptop thing. I was just
in
like,
case you're boring, I can like play video games. You know?
oh, really? Which one are you on now?
Honestly, I haven't played games in like a year since I got on Vyvanse.
Wait, so you get on Vyvanse and then you just lose the gamer instinct?
I think the explanation is that like it's very hard to focus on something. So you watched a lot of my stuff, right?
Yeah.
Usually I'll have a game going, and then in the background, like I'll have a video because it's harder to sit and watch something. But now I can like sit and concentrate or like read stuff. So I don't have the need to like have that constant stimulus. So I feel like I always have something better to
What's
do.
the downside to the Vyvanse?
Different people have different side effects. I think usually related to elevated heart rate, anxiety, shaking hands, or whatever. For whatever reason, I don't have any.
For you, it's just all positive?
Yeah, like it regulated my sleep and everything. So I'm like golden.
Wow. Because I've been having that experience lately where I'll like sit down, try to like work on writing like a script for a video, and then I can't do anything. Like I'm like fucking opening YouTube over and over, or like, texting, and I just can't like get myself to focus on the mission in front of me, which I haven't normally had that much of a problem with throughout my life. And I feel like I don't know. It's like maybe I need something.
What do you normally script out for content?
Well, we don't really like do that much of that, but I've done that in the past, and I'm like trying to get back into the grind of kind of like writing out videos and like
what even is like what are you writing out?
Well,
Like skits or
no, like just like more like essay style videos. Like that's kind of like right now I feel like I'm like fully interview brained. Like I put all my effort into like writing interviews and focusing on who I'm going to interview, and then as time goes by, it's like I want to have more scripted essay style stuff coming out, and I want to like build it up to have like a team of people helping me, that's really something that I've like figured out through him. He's like he has like a whole team around him doing research and like helping him to like put together his videos, and like I want to have that as more of like a stable foundation, not like the exact kind of stuff he's doing, but like different types of stuff. I don't know.
what's like your dream content? Like what direction do you want to go in or whatever? Like, do you want to talk about?
Stumped me. I don't know.
Well, like, do you want like you were talking about doing scripted videos and everything? Do you want to talk about like politics or business stuff, or like still kind of like culture, pop culture
Yeah,
stuff,
like
music?
definitely like pop culture and like people who are. I feel like really I want to do like a cooler version of like before they were famous. You remember when that like mattered? Or
a
no?
long time ago, I think.
That guy Michael McCrudden.
Okay, I don't, but
Oh, okay. There's like a channel called like Before They Were Famous that would just do these like bios about all the different people like emerging in the culture and shit. I don't know what happened, but their views went to dog shit and like totally fell off.
I swear he like sold the channel or something.
Well, he never owned it in the first place. It was
Oh,
always
wow.
like some fucking company that owned it that he worked for. Yeah.
Yeah, he had all these different hosts. I knew that he used to do a lot of videos on the rappers, and like essentially you could just tell it was like pre-scripted. Like he would pronounce names wrong. You could tell they were not vested in any of the topics that they covered whatsoever.
He was like the first YouTuber that I was like mad at because I would interview somebody. Like I remember I interviewed Suicide Boys, and then he did like the before they were famous about Suicide Boys, and it was like obviously 100% taken from my video. And then like their label is like G59, and the whole time he was calling it G59. And I'm just sitting there watching it, like cringing out of my fucking skin, just so mad at the concept of this guy just like taking my content and doing that. And now I'm like so unbelievably used to that.
The two worst things about stuff like that is if they do it and they get more views.
Yes.
And you can't complain about it because you sound like you're crying or whatever. You're just like, oh, fuck.
At that time, that was a very unique experience for me. And now that's just everything.
I feel like the whole ecosystem of YouTube is very like self-feeding. It's kind of like I don't know, there's so much copycatting and stuff that goes on, but it's like everyone's just trying to get their views, like they're just trying to get their little bite of the algorithm. But I don't know. I feel like it's the video essay space. I feel like over the last like 5 or 6 years, it's got just like very crowded and like very derivative,
cutthroat.
I think that there's like a trend, probably you could call it a capitalism thing, to where a new thing happens and a whole bunch of people will flood the space and everybody's trying to figure out what works, and you're kind of like in this twilight golden era right after it just starts, and everybody's like experimental. But then once the formula is figured out, everybody hones in on that. And this is like the story of everything, right? Like video games, you know, when people were making games, I bring this up all the time. If you ever played like original PlayStation, whether or not like X or O was even confirmed was different from game to game. And there were like different control schemes and like experimental like games and who knows what works. But now like Ubisoft and Activision and Blizzard, like they have like this very formulaic approach. And it's the same thing with like YouTube as well, right?
Yeah, like when we were kids, it was like even just like the categories of video games were like kind of loose. And then now when you think about it, it's like everybody can sort and tell you exactly what a video game is, like what box it belongs in and stuff. And it's like the audience is like super hyper aware of exactly what they're dealing with. And yeah, like so many times when I sit down and try to play a video game, it just becomes unbelievably obvious to me that this is like, oh, I'm exchanging like money and or time for like advancing in this game, but none of the things that I'm advancing in the game. Like you have to buy in to like believe that there's some value in progressing in this game, and it's like I can't get my like logical brain around that as an adult.
Yeah, it feels a little soulless sometimes. I feel like it's been like this for like a decade. There's like this Ubisoft approach where you enter an area, your minimap is dark, you need to like climb a tower or go to a watch thing or whatever, and then you unlock the map, and then like 2 main quest icons show up, 3 mini quest icons show up, and like 4 whatever show up. And you go around, you walk around, you do them all, and then you go to the next area, you unlock the next tower, and you repeat. And that's like been the formula. And you don't even really have to like be watching the game because you just have like a little check marker on your screen and it's all like open world. So you just like run to the next place and it's like, okay.
You're just map following basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But I mean, I feel like YouTube content will be very similar where it's like, hey guys, today I'm going to do this. My video happens to be 10 minutes and 4 seconds long because that's about how long it needs to be in order to get picked up. And I'm going to give you the most surface level glimpse into this topic like you've ever heard in your entire life. And yeah.
And I feel like my brain gravitates back towards like the super simple games that I played as a kid. Cause like I love Minesweeper. I like Pac-Man. I like Tetris. I like very, very simple games that like don't have any kind of fluff added to it.
Minesweeper?
You would like Minesweeper.
I know what Minesweeper is. It's just
okay.
That's like something I used to play real games like tic-tac-toe and
okay.
That's the thing you can say, I guess.
But you could watch some videos about Minesweeper and like kind of like see how extreme it has gotten, where people like have just taken it to the extent to which they've optimized being able to guess like what might be in any given square is very appealing to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of feel like poker has occupied that space in my mind so hard for so long. But I'm like, I feel like I'm kind of ready to get out of it. Like I've just been too interested in poker for too long, and I'm just not like growing.
When did you get? Do you do it?
Understanding wise.
Is this like a significant hobby for you? Like you investing a lot of time into it, or
not a lot, but for sure I'll like watch/play for like an hour or two a day.
Oh, okay. I remember watching you do it on stream like 3 years ago. I remember you used to stream sometimes sit and goes or something.
Yeah, and I remember I got you coaching with BBZ one time, and then I wanted to see it so bad, and then it never emerged anywhere. So I never got to like figure out where you were at in terms of what he was teaching you
I
about.
think we streamed.
Yeah.
Oh, but I don't know if it got uploaded.
It didn't pop up anywhere, so I never got to see it. I was sad.
I'm surprised you haven't got like a stake deal or something to do the paid gambling stuff. I mean, I really hate all that stuff, but like if you gamble, like that's...
But most of that is like brainless gambling, whereas like poker is like the idea is that you can win long term if you're good at it, but like stake and shit doesn't like have. I've never been attracted to any kind of gambling besides poker.
You just, without realizing it, that's one of the most triggering statements you can say to a poker player. It's like, oh, so you must play like craps and roulette and like slots, right? And then that's the speech you'll always get. Poker, it's not against the house. It's not gambling. You can be profitable over the long term. You can't be profitable in any table game, okay? It's not the same thing.
But the thing about it too, though, is that in any given poker game, because the rake is so high, it'll usually be like 5 to 10% of the people who play are in any way profitable, and everybody else is losing. Which is like, you know, if there was no rake, then it would be like much easier to be profitable. You'd probably have like, you know, 40% of people would be profitable, but instead it's like terrible because they take so much out of it.
In real life or online?
Both.
Okay. I think the rake in real life is significantly worse, and because you're seeing like 15, 20 hands an hour maybe because it's so much slower, and you have to tip if you don't want to be an asshole.
The biggest online poker site, ggpoker.com, has basically like taken the concept of charging people rake, and they've taken it to such an insane, extreme degree that they're charging like 2 or 3 times as much rake as like all the sites throughout history, which is like really taking it to another level of like making it difficult to beat it. But they're pretty transparent about like not really wanting pros in their games. They want to create an environment in which it's like a good game for people who suck, and that no intelligent pro would actually want to spend their time playing on the site.
Yeah.
You ever see the YouTube channel Lemon?
No.
He had a good video about like a poker player called, I think his name was like Chris Moneyman or something.
Oh, Chris Moneymaker. I watched that one, the greatest tournament run of all time. Yeah.
What do you think of that?
It's true. It's like unbelievable. That's like the craziest story ever. He's just like a random fucking guy, and then he somehow qualified for the World Series and somehow won the whole thing. And
that was very entertaining. Would that be the kind of documentary you'd want to make on the channel, like something like Poker Law?
Nah.
No.
Poker's too niche.
That was a very entertaining doc, though.
That was a good one.
That was crazy.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it got 1 million views just because that's such an old fucking story from a poker player perspective. That's like, because that like created the initial poker boom.
How long? When did you get into poker?
When I was probably like 20, 21. Like, it was huge. It was like the only thing on TV back then.
I'm so salty because, I want to say it was around like 2006, 2007, 2008. Like the online poker scene was so much fun.
2009 was like
so cool.
Black Friday when they wiped out everybody's
and then if you're
accounts.
Basically they made it in the United States. I don't remember what the law was. It had to do with like how they held money or transacted money from customers, but they basically effectively banned all Americans from playing online. So you had like this super fun environment where all these like casual people, like retards like me, were getting involved. You had like these heroes on TV, like your Phil Ivies and your Helmuths and your Tom Dwans, these like really young guys, your Chris Moneymakers doing your WSOP. And the games were so fun and so cool. And then everybody gets banned. And now you go online, I don't know about now, but like you'd go online after and it's like fucking people multi-tabling 16 tables with their like poker tracker up, and it's like the hardest fucking tightest game you've ever seen in your entire life, and you're like getting destroyed everywhere.
But poker has changed so much since then, because it used to be that you could go online on any given night and see all these players, like top players, going against each other, and that doesn't happen anymore because they're all cognizant of the fact that there's no reason to just like play against somebody else who's like approximately as good as you, because at that time it was believed that like your poker strategy is your poker strategy and his strategy is his strategy. Now we all know we've converged upon one truth through
that's
solvers.
funny too.
Yeah.
The same thing as like video games and movies and what we were complaining about earlier. Like before, you like the games were like experimental and shit.
Yeah.
And now it's like, why would you call? There's like a 27% chance of this, and your implied odds of this, and the ranges. It's like
now the people who can consistently win in poker are like the geniuses who've studied the solver the most, and then the only divergence from that strategy is like exploits, which is basically like, I feel like Destiny's kind of tight. He's going to fold more. He's going to fold 5% more than the average player. So I'm going to like tweak the solver output in my head to be a little bit more aggressive because I know he's over folding. But basically, like it's gone from this game where everybody had their own unique style to a game where there's just like an understanding of what's correct. And even, a 21-year-old kid who's just playing $5 tournaments online, there's a pretty good chance that he's sitting there with solvers and studying all this insanely good studying material out there, and is able to like, basically like beat the shit out of like anyone who isn't equally studied.
I think that's why live games are still fun, because they're not like that as much. People are chatting, having fun.
Live is just unbelievably bad. Everybody is fucking horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
You could definitely be like way more profitable playing live versus like online. You're competing against everybody else who wants to, like every single person on earth who wants to play this stake could potentially play against you. So when you get to like decently high amounts, like if you want to sit down and play poker with $5,000 on the table, well, there's some guy in fucking Belarus that's like feeding his family off of the fact that you're a little bit worse than him. So, you know, you're never going to be able to compete with that guy. That guy has 8 hours a day to study this game, you know?
What's your main thing online?
So I do like very long form video essays, mainly about kind of like gangster rappers, drill rappers.
Okay.
He's like the foremost expert on the convergence of like making content that combines like drill rappers and shit with true crime.
Yeah.
Like his greatest success was this video about King Von that basically like breaks down his lyrics as well as like police reports and all kinds of other shit to like basically prove that he was a serial killer.
That sounds interesting.
Quite notorious / famous for it, yeah.
We're in this really interesting era. I don't know how much you know about drill music, but like...
Only the bad things I would read about Adam in it. Like, literally, that's it. That's...
Well, Tim Pool just put out a clip about drill rap, basically saying like, oh, okay, it's like 10, 15 years too late.
Yeah, I was going to say...
drill is bad, yeah.
Okay.
Basically, like, gangster rap is like a subgenre of rap music that's evolved over the years, and then drill music or drill rap is like essentially a hyper-violent branch off from gangster rap that's basically all about like real murders that are provable. And so I've kind of become the foremost guy to like prove the murders, look at the lyrics. Like with Kim Von, like I read every tweet he ever made, and like he would basically kill people and then tweet about it straight after. And like I kind of like put that all together, and it was quite controversial at the time when I dropped that.
Do you ever get worried about making that kind of content?
Yeah, that's a whole thing. Like
he's always trying to like figure out how worried he should be.
Why are you trying to get this guy killed?
I'm not. He took this career on himself.
So you said that Ross was coming. Okay, I don't know anything about anything on the internet, even in my area, because I just don't have time to watch anything. Yeah. So I'm trying to look up like, okay, like who is Ross? How do I title the stream? Everything, and I keep seeing like trap lore Ross. So I'm assuming it's like, okay, Ross is talking about trap lore, but what's his name? And then I eventually found out it was trap lore. But one of the top clips that comes up is like Adam shows trap lore Ross calling out like the Crips or something, and I'm like, damn, yeah. Thing. Why would you do that?
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get this guy killed.
That was kind of my fault, though. I shouldn't have said that. That was my fault. I should have known better.
You knew you were trolling, like.
No, but I didn't know that I was trolling to that extent. I wasn't. Oh man, that was bad. But yeah, no, I get a lot of issues. It's a whole thing. Like I be getting threatened by these guys, and like this is just a whole thing. But it's like it's very easy to threaten me. Like, look at me. I'm not a gangster, but like I'm kind of the figurehead of exposing killer rappers. Basically, their whole thing is they call me the police.
Okay.
Like, I'm a fed. But
we both have like YouTube comments kind of constantly wishing death upon us for these crimes that are often poorly articulated, that are basically just telling us that we've done something horrible to this community and that we should feel terrible about it, and people have got thrown in jail because of us, and nobody can ever name anyone who's actually been thrown in jail, and people got killed because of us, and nobody can ever actually name anybody who got killed because of us. So it's kind of funny because we were with this dude 1090 Jake all weekend too, and he's like, he does videos primarily like a lot of his content over the past few years has been like exposing snitches, and he's definitely got himself in some situations where it's like people probably wanted to do something physically, because like he could make a video about somebody and literally cost that person like millions of dollars by exposing some shit that they said to the cops, which is kind of different when, you know, he or I are sort of like working with information that's usually like publicly available. But also Jake is a blood. Jake's done prison time. I feel like somebody doing something to him is a lot more plausible because of the fact that he's actually like a real participant in that world, as opposed to us where we're kind of outsiders criminal wise.
I feel like we're easy targets though, because like for me it's like it's very easy for a rapper to like try and apply pressure to me and like get some attention and some clout off of that, because it's, I guess it's like there's been like viral clips of people dissing me and stuff like that, and I'm kind of in this world where it's like all these killers and stuff, and like I get why people would say that like when people call me the police, I actually take that as a compliment. I'm good at what I do. Like when the Young Thug case happened like 6 months before he got arrested, I basically aired out the whole murder and everything that had gone down, and they were like, oh, Ross is the reason he got arrested. But it's just like, if I was able to work it out with Twitter, the police were obviously able to work it out with your subpoenaed phone records, but I kind of catch a lot of the heat to say like, you're the reason these guys got arrested.
Would you, okay, so again, I'm a gang retard, believe it or not. I did watch all 5 seasons of The Wire. That's about the extent of my knowledge. Would you be considered like a fair target, I guess, for somebody that makes content like that, or would that be kind of like that's kind of fucked up?
It's an interesting thing, because it's like, I personally, on like a personal level, I don't believe it's very gangster or tough to press me. And like, you know, look, I live in the UK, like I'm kind of out of the way for all of that stuff. But like, I understand why they don't like me and why.
I'm not saying don't like you. I mean, like if somebody, like let's say you went to the studio with Adam and there were guys that knew you were going that day, do you think you'd be like a fair person to show up and like, you know, like jump or something?
Yeah, in some certain select scenarios. Like there's certain people that I'm definitely not trying to be around. But then overall, I would say that like some of the threats against me have been slightly overblown.
Very overblown.
Very overblown.
Well, I think, because it's like, from my perspective, all right, throughout the history of hip hop, I've seen situations in which like journalists have gotten like punched or like had, you know, or been like threatened or some shit by like rappers. In terms of like really shooting or like beating the dog shit out of someone who's like really just a commentator on the culture, just feels like very unlikely. Not really the kind, like I've just never really seen like a rapper have that kind of energy for somebody. Now, granted, like right now, if you were to run into, okay, if we were in the club and you saw like Duty Low and like a bunch of like OTF affiliates, I don't consider that to be totally out of the realm of possibility that in the right place, somebody might be down to sucker punch you or whatever.
Yeah. Like Q50 and Vert.
Yeah, but even like that, it just feels like it's so unlikely. And especially like you not being a gang member, like you being like capable of talking to the cops, which like a lot of, you know, 1090 Jake would not talk to the cops no matter what somebody did to him.
Would you ever, and you don't have to answer this if it would endanger you, but let's say there was some type of activity and you feel like you've seen something or figured out something that you feel like the police have missed. Are you ever like contacting the cops directly or anything? Or are you just like putting out videos on YouTube and, you know, whatever happens, happens?
That's what they accuse me of, but I personally feel like if I found it, the police will have found it, because the police can subpoena your records. They'll be looking at all of your DMs and stuff. And these guys really be arranging murders in DMs and iMessages and stuff, right? So it's like, what's interesting is like the Young Thug thing. 6 months before he got arrested, I kind of cracked the whole case. I did like a 2-hour video about it and his beef and the murder that happened. But then when the indictment actually came out, there was a bunch of text messages between him and his guys that I'd never seen that tied it all together even more. So it was kind of like, I feel like I'm just kind of the tip of the iceberg. But I do sometimes find stuff that's like, I'm like, oh, I actually really found something crazy here and I'm not going to put that out because that's too, like, I don't have anything to gain by putting this out, and I put myself in a bit more danger than I need to by putting this out. So
like, he doesn't work off anything that isn't like public material, but if there's an indictment, he's probably going to be the one who like writes a video that sort of breaks down the indictment in full, you know, depth. But then to like a gang member, you're like the face of what it seems like snitching to them, even though like, think about all the resources that the cops have. You know, they could get access to your phone, they could have access to your email, your Instagram, etc. And it's like, to even compare what somebody like you does to what the cops are capable of doing is just so retarded beyond belief, because like, you know, it's not palatable for a gangster to like be mad at the cops. You know, they understand that the cops are just doing their job and that they're going to come upon whatever information is possible. So like, the idea of getting mad at you for breaking down exclusively stuff that is already available online is just so dumb.
There's this crazy lack of accountability of like, I did this video recently about this guy that he says in all of his songs that he killed 8 people, Q50, talking about Q50 caught 8 bodies and still on the run. And it's like, he's put all of this information out there and it's pretty easily verifiable. There's videos of murders taking place. There's all this kind of different paperwork. Like, it's pretty grisly. It's kind of gruesome. But like, you know, he was super mad at me and kind of really directed that anger towards me, calling me the police and all of this stuff. But like, at the same time, it's like, you were running around on songs talking about, I've got 8, they call it like hats, like a hat is like a murder, like a body. So they'll be like, I got 8 hats. So they're broadcasting all of this stuff to millions of people. These songs have millions of views, but then they get very upset when I point that out.
But it's weird because we'll be listening to the music and hearing them say shit, and it just sounds like a vague description of criminality, right? Like, it's not like we really know if there's any truth to it. But like, one of the most disturbing things that happened last year was that this video came out of like, basically there's a bunch of kids leaving high school, and some kid runs up and just fucking shoots 2 of them and kills them, like on the street outside of their school. There's like, you know, women like drop into their knees crying and like screaming in the middle of Chicago. Really? Yeah, like kids, like 16, 17, some shit like that. And then we all see this clip, and it's like the conclusion is just like, holy fuck, like that's insane, that's terrible, that's like the worst shit I've seen in a long time. And then this rapper Bloodhound Lil Jeff gets killed, and then you basically end up finding out that he basically was the one who went and killed those kids outside of the school. So at the same time, I'm watching that clip on Twitter being like, wow, that's the most fucked up shit I ever seen. And then I'm also watching music videos of this rapper and not realizing that it was him who pulled the trigger and that he's actually rapping about it. And like he kind of does like the legwork of like breaking down the songs and being like, these lyrics are most likely describing these murders that he actually committed. And everybody involved in this is like between the age of like 16 and like 20.
Yeah. So you're like rap genius, but for solving murders. Okay.
Yeah, like drill genius, I would probably say. Yeah. It's interesting because it's like a rap genius is like a very useful resource, and there's like a lot of really interesting lyric breakdowns on there. But like my thing is like I'm really trying to find out like everything. Like that guy you're talking about, Lil Jeff, like he allegedly killed like 11 people within the span of like 2 years, and then he ended up getting killed himself. Like the crazy thing is like nowadays so much of this stuff's on camera. Jeff getting killed was on camera, it was leaked, put everywhere. The 2 kids that he killed, that's on camera. Like that footage was really gruesome, and it's just nowadays it's unusual for a drill rapper to not die on camera, to be honest.
Jesus.
It's crazy.
Yeah, because I remember when XXXTentacion got killed.
In his car.
Yeah, but I remember like I found out, I'm just like, what the fuck? And then I go to Twitter and I immediately see a video of him with his whole shit split open, bleeding out, etc.
The guys are like selfieing, talking shit after they killed him, right? Are they?
That's random people that are filming it.
Okay,
the guys
yeah,
that did
yeah.
it ran away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
But that was just like the first person that I lost to violence probably in my whole life was him, I think. Like somebody that I was like really close to.
Oh, shit. I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah, and then I go to Twitter and I just like see the video of it, and then but that has become such an unbelievably common experience because we saw Draco get killed by 20 dudes stabbing him to death. We saw King Von die from like a security camera. We saw Lil Jeff die on the security camera. It's like everybody. There's so many cameras now that it's like very unlikely that you won't see it.
Do you think Tentacion was like the first? He wasn't a drill rapper at all, right?
No.
Do you think he was like the first like public like SoundCloud rapper killing like of that magnitude?
Yeah, pretty much. Because like a bunch of the other SoundCloud rappers died. Like Lil Peep died before that, but that was from a fake Xanax.
But there was footage of that too. They filmed his body after he was in the room. You know, it's messed
Yeah,
up.
different, right?
Yeah, it's different.
But even then, like Juice WRLD died like right after that. Most of the SoundCloud rappers died from drugs more so than violence. But the X thing was like the most random shit ever because he was like, he wasn't really like that. You know, he was crazy when he was younger. He was like violent. I remember like before I even interviewed him, I saw a video of him like stabbing somebody in a street fight. But I never would have ever dreamed that like, because the dudes who killed him were basically like real Florida gang members, you know, like kind of guys who like, you know, were basically like Kodak Black clones, more or less. So they got all these face tattoos, they're from gangs, etc. X wasn't from that side of the tracks. He probably could have ended up there if he wasn't a rapper, but
he just had a bag of like 50 grand in cash. He was going to buy a motorcycle,
Yeah.
and then they
and they robbed it.
Yeah, it's messed up. He didn't want to give it up, and just I don't know.
Damn.
But if you don't know much about this space, you know, it's quite fascinating. Like on Reddit, there's basically a community for like every city's gang culture. Like in Chicago, which is probably the most violent city for this kind of stuff, there's Chiracology subreddit, and they basically, it's like punditry for the gang warfare that's going on in Chicago, and they follow it like it's sports, you know. It's kind of crazy.
But I think the only one I've ever been like aware of or seen, I think I watched a fucking video on it, was all the Jacksonville guys.
Yeah,
he did like the definitive video about that at one point. You might
have watched your video.
Yeah.
I can't. I love white people, and we're all white people here. Thank God.
You're Cuban.
Fucking slave owner Cubans. Okay. The oh God, who was the Vanessa Carlton when she was tweeting out?
Yeah.
You might have even covered it in your video. Yeah. When she was tweeting out the like, actually, and then she posted a clip of Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Violence is used in white people media all the time, so I don't know why these people that murder people in real life can't use my songs. It sounds like
that was like one of the most ignorant things I've ever seen anyone say. I was like so astonished that she said
that Reservoir Dogs is not a real life event. That's not like that's a movie, right? Yeah. Jesus, what a crazy statement by her.
I feel like she probably got a nice paycheck off of allowing that sample to go through.
But like,
wait, do you think they actually really licensed it from her?
They did.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, because once it went super viral, I think they went back and did the paperwork. But here's,
Oh, well, okay.
But here's the crazy thing: the response song that the guy Fulio, who unfortunately got killed like last year or this year, his response, he sampled that Fantasia song "When I See You," but he didn't get the clearance, and he couldn't get the clearance. They wouldn't clear it. So like all of his ops that were dissing all these dead people that got in with Vanessa Carlton, they made a bunch of money off of it. Fulio didn't make a cent off of his one. It's kind of like I don't know. It's a very dirty game.
That's why he got killed. Couldn't afford any real heat.
There's a lot of reason why he got killed, man. It's unfortunate.
I think I watched that one. That's where is that the music video where he's like rapping near like the the one after the Fuzi
In the graveyard.
Okay, yeah.
And he's got the picture of the 3 dead guys.
Yeah. Jeez, that's crazy.
But people like these rappers put together such fascinating storylines, and then the fans want us to feel bad because we're fascinated by it. I refuse. It's just this is interesting. Like this deserves to be documented and talked about.
It's bizarre that I feel like people kind of push me in a way that they kind of act like you shouldn't be able to talk about this stuff. It's like you got a Vanessa Carlton sample. The guy's making fun of 4 specific dead people who he names.
The music video has 50 million views in like a week.
And like
and you want us to not talk about it.
But like all of the people he mentions in the song is like, "Who I smoke, Bibby." Like Bibby's a 16-year-old kid. So my goal with that video was to like really make people understand like these aren't made up names for fun. Like that's a real kid that got killed when he was 16 at a park when this situation happened. This guy got shot on the highway, and it's kind of like I try and bring like a very responsible tone to this very messed up, like deranged, murderous musical world.
Yeah, it feels like in the gangster rap days, and maybe I'm ignorant, I don't, but it feels like in the gangster rap days, you would like rap about bad shit you did when you were younger.
Yeah.
And then Drobot was like, but what if we rapped when we were still doing it and continued to do it?
Or you're rapping about like what like the worst guy from your neighborhood did.
Yeah.
But people are willing to accept that like, oh, he's not a killer, but he's talking about like some shit that like somebody he knows did. Whereas now it feels like it's the fans, they're not really all that interested unless they at least think there's like a good chance that you're involved in the shit that you're rapping about,
I feel like King Von is kind of the guy that changed the game because he allegedly killed 7 people and got away with it and was rapping and became very famous. And like I feel like he was kind of the one that really broke down the door of like the people that are going to do well are real killers that we can verify they actually killed people. If he was still alive, he would definitely be doing life, I think.
Yeah.
But
are there any like drill rappers that retire?
Violence-wise, yeah, for sure.
Okay, they don't all like die when they're like okay.
Usually quite quickly. That's really like when we talk about Lil Jeff. That's what like made him really stand out is the fact that he was already blowing up as a rapper, had millions of views on all the songs and shit, and then he literally like went to his enemy's hood and like jumped out of the car with a machine gun and started shooting at people, and then somebody came out of the house and shot him and killed him. But it was like, anybody with any sense would stop participating in that kind of shit, especially once they achieved some level of success. But he was like still out there like really doing that shit. But he's young as fuck too. He's like 20. It's like he didn't really have enough time to like even somebody like Dirk is probably Lil Durk is probably gonna do
Thanks for clarifying. So many Durks in the trap scene, but okay.
No,
for
but
Lil Durk, yeah.
Okay, Lil Durk is like the most recent dude who's like basically got caught up. Nobody's saying that he killed anybody, but they are saying that he like paid for and orchestrated a bunch of hits.
I'm about to say a whole bunch of stuff about Lil Durk. So
he's
got to drop it here. Okay, I got enough people trying to kill me. All right.
But yeah, the Lil Jeff one's interesting because it's like the footage of him getting killed. He's actively trying to kill someone and then get shot. So like, there's been a whole thing of just like, well, he really went out trying to be a killer, like everything he said in his songs. And it's kind of like it's this weird badge of honor of like how he died. And it's just, I don't know, it's very twisted. It's like some real life, like, what's that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger where it's like they all got killed?
Terminator 2.
Nah, come on. What's the other one?
Mr. Mom.
Oh, man.
No.
Running Man?
I
Pumping
watched
Iron.
a lot of Arnold.
Okay. I don't know.
Movies. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, like I don't know, Squid Game or something in real life. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, like sometimes I think like, how like there's guys on Twitter where it's like if you're like the anti-abortion guy, like you just quote tweet everything that happens in the culture and just like say that this is bad because it. In some
like
way.
The Trump reply guys or people.
Yeah. It does sometimes occur to me that the obvious like career transition that like quite a few people in my position would be to like become like an anti-drill commentator, or like everything that happens in rap, you like write your little paragraph talking about how it's bad. I feel like we could do both. You could be like, you could talk about how this culture has like some extremely fucked up shit about it while also being interested in it. But that's like a tricky thing to balance. Like people are very challenged by seeing you, be a fan of shit while also being able to acknowledge that this is probably like net negative for society. 100% negative for society.
It's like a fine line because like I always try and bring like a very responsible tone to these very dark stories, and I like often part of my videos is like the first 20 minutes I might explain like, well, they're coming from this really impoverished area and there's been so much oppression that's gone on, and you've got young guys that are being forced into this violent lifestyle that they might not have been forced into if they were born somewhere else.
Sometimes I wonder if your retention on your videos would be better if it didn't have the 20 minutes of like breaking down like post-slavery, like how this community ended up like this. Like I wonder, is there like a drop off?
I think so. Something I'm working on is like maybe kind of front loading it and kind of like playing with the timeline, like some Tarantino stuff of like, oh, maybe the responsible stuff I'll put at the end.
Do you think that like in listening to a lot of older rappers, it seems like there's always like regret expressed and like trying to tell these young kids not to do like Cream, Wu-Tang, like like talking, don't let these guys get involved in these lifestyles. Do the drill people seem the same way, or are they like more like fuck it, like gangbang, do it, have fun?
Yeah, I feel like now it's gone the other way where it's like the majority of the guys that are doing really well on the drill thing, like Lil Durk. Like if you go back and listen to some of Lil Durk's recent albums, he's really talking about I pay to get people killed, and it's like he's laid it all out. Like it's not looking good for him.
Okay.
And so, but then it's like he's a funny one because he's very like his personality is very duplicitous. Of like he'll have these pain songs where he's like, oh, I regret so much of what I did, and then the next track will just be like, nah, I paid to have him killed. Like we put hits out on people. We're gonna come to get you. We're gonna fly to get you. So I don't know. It's kind of. It's very twisted, but I think it says so much about like where our media is these days, where it's like the things that do well are just the most extreme examples. Like King Von, it's like he killed 7 people. Then this Jeff guy is saying he killed 11 people. Now it's just getting absurd to think this rapper killed 11 people and he was running around talking about it.
Yeah, I guess my next question would be for I don't know if you call it traditional rap or mainstream rap or whatever. If you think like people like 21 Savage or whatever, does any of the pressure to be like hard flow upstream from the drill stuff back to the ordinary rappers?
Well, yes, because I feel like somebody like Drake brings in 21 Savage and does an album with him and like has him on a ton of his songs because Drake is so cunning and able to recognize what's going on in the culture, and he realizes that a huge percentage of the popular music right now has lyrics about killing people and shooting people, etc. And he knows that he can't really like authentically do that, but if he does a whole album with 21 Savage, 21 can kind of do that. But also like 21 Savage is at the point success wise where he's never gonna rap about some real street shit for the most part.
Because like 21, I don't know, but 21 wasn't a drill rapper, was he?
He kind of was, but he was like from a generation before that where it's like he was not rapping about the specific people that he had issues with, whereas like with a lot of drill rappers, that's like the main characteristic
so
of it.
My question was more not even like people doing songs with somebody like 21, but like people like 21. Do they feel, because there used to be some, or at least it felt like there was some credit in talking about, even fucking Jay-Z talks about I used to sell crack or whatever.
But I think somebody like 21 Savage is too aware of where he's at in his career to actually start rapping about shit that is like super specific. Like he's not.
So they don't feel that pressure. They just want to make music and say.
But somebody like Lil Durk, who came up as the guy who's rapping about all this beef that he's involved in and shit. When you think about that, it's like he's smart enough to realize that if he completely stops making that kind of music, he's really kind of like ceding a percentage of his fan base to like younger, newer artists because they want to hear that shit from him. And like Durk is somebody who has been able to make big records outside of the drill shit, but I think also he probably knows that like a lot of his biggest songs are basically ones where he's like taunting, the families of dead people and whatnot.
Have you ever had any of these drill rappers get like features from mainstream rappers? Does that happen?
Yeah, Lil Durk did a whole song with J. Cole all my life. I played that song for my kid a million times.
Jesus.
My kid loves it. The whole song is about how kids need to do better and be better, etc. And then he gets indicted for murders, ordering murders.
It's kind of like a facade. Like he had that song with Drake called Laugh Now, Cry Later. And it's this kind of like fun, sort of quite positive song. But it's like beneath the surface, there's a lot of references like Laugh Now, Cry Later. The song came out like a couple days after this guy, FBG Duck, got murdered. And Dirk's kind of been sort of implicated in organizing this thing. So it's like he's kind of like wrapped up this positive music with this like undertone of like, but people are getting killed over this stuff. And it's like 2 songs later on the album, after an inspiring song, he's then just confessing to arranging a bunch of murders. So
I think like the question is like how does a culture erase that war instinct from itself over time? Because like really there's a lot of rappers that we could kind of suspect would be doing the kinds of things that Dirk has done, like whether it's like currently or like maybe at some point throughout their career or whatever. They're probably just a lot more low key about it, or they didn't have people snitching on them, etc. And it's just like I wonder that a lot, like is this Like, what does it take to make people want to stop doing these revenge killings?
That's
Well,
what
I mean,
sells now, though.
Yeah, it feels like the difference is like I don't know how common this was, but I guess I'm reminded of, or I'm thinking of people that sometimes like become really successful athletes can sometimes come from bad backgrounds, and generally when you become a successful athlete, like that's you leaving where you came from and making something more of yourself. And then there's that contrast between like your new group of friends, the new world you live in versus where you came from. And then some people have a hard time shedding that. So I'm thinking of like Conor McGregor, like fighting dudes on a bus. And it's like, why you don't need to act like this anymore. But now, rather than you making it as you leaving that world, people have found a way to monetize the world itself, which is like weird. Because again, when I think back to like older rappers that I listened to, like rapping was your way out of the hood, right? The rapping was like, I don't have to do this shit anymore. Now I can rap. But I was like, but if I can rap about this and do it at the same time, like if you were a drill rapper, what are you even ascending to other than like killing more people? I'm phrasing this aggressive, but I'm just asking, right?
We kind of have seen like a more commercialized version of drill rappers where you have somebody like Lil Durk that's able to make these big hits. And so like he might put out a project and there might be 15 songs on it and there's like 3 of them that are basically like murder anthems. And then a bunch of the other ones are like auto-tune ballads talking about sad shit, talking about eating pussy, talking about whatever, you know. And it's like we've seen somebody like Chief Keef who started out as a drill rapper and then kind of like slowly transformed into what is now, where it's not like he would never rap about some gangster shit, but he's not, you know, specifically naming off dead ops in his songs really or anything like that. So it's kind of, there's definitely like a version of that, but like, you know, it's stunned me at times when there's people in the music industry who are literally like 60-year-old juice box emojis who basically, you know, are out here signing like every single drill rapper that they could possibly get their hands on. And like, from my perspective, it's like, what is the longevity that you see in this dude's career? Like, you know, very like 1% of drill rappers end up having a career that goes beyond just.
Well, you don't need longevity, right? You just need to make money off them, right?
Yeah, but you just would expect these big labels to not want to invest in something that is basically like, you know, has such a tiny percentage chance. But I guess if you're trying to like impress the board or the shareholders or whatever, you got to sign some people and you got to try to turn them into stars. And a lot of times they see these drill rappers as being the artists who have the best chance of turning into something.
But I feel like right now it's so ghoulish that like the dead rappers are worth more to the labels than the alive ones. You know, there's the whole Empire curse thing of like Empire Records signed all of these guys that ended up getting killed, and then it's like the posthumous albums are popping.
Yeah, because I was gonna say that's kind of dark, but like if you're telling me I can like contract people who die and then I own the rights to all their shit, like imagine being the guy who signs like Van Gogh and
yeah.
he killed himself.
But I feel like the vast majority of drill rappers when they die, it's kind of over, you know. And like very once in a while, like even the Bloodhounds, like their shit is streaming like way better now, I'm sure, than before they died.
Way better.
But like a year or two from now, no way. Like I feel like if you're gonna sign somebody, you basically are banking on the idea that they're going to become something more as time goes by and not just die and leave you, you know, 30 songs that you can monetize.
I don't know if it's similar like in the gaming world or in the content creation world as it is in the drill world too, but like it's my guess is similar in that these are people that don't have access to many resources, and as a label you can probably flash a lot when it's not really that much. Like you're old enough, you know that if somebody comes to you with a deal and it's not money, but it's some other bullshit, right? Like some kind of product, or you can stay in a house or a car or free flights or some bullshit. You know, it's always bullshit. But if you're offering some dude who's never had access to any of this shit before, you know, like you can stay in some place or throw some extravagant party or free time in a recording booth and like $5,000 or something. Maybe for some of these people, you can buy out like 20, 30, 40 drill rappers and you only need like one of them to make all of the other stuff worth it, maybe. Yeah.
That's definitely how it usually plays out. Because it's like, you know, labels will sign an artist and give them like $100,000 and they feel like they've made it. And number one, the $100,000 doesn't last that long. And number two, it's like you're paying that off through your royalties through the music, and it's like it's going to take you an insanely long period of time. I still have people all the time being like gloating to me about signing publishing deals, and I'm just thinking like you just. But then meanwhile, you talk to like an older person in the industry who's experienced some success, and they'll be lamenting how they signed a publishing deal when they were 18 and it totally fucked them over financially going forward. I mean, yeah, the music industry is insanely predatory. They kind of deserve a lot of what they're going through right now.
It's interesting though, because these music executives, they don't seem scared to like completely stitch up a very dangerous gangster rapper in the mad contract because they're like, well, he's not going to touch us in this big building, and like we're just going to own him, basically own everything he's ever done, and hopefully he dies within a year, and then we're good.
And you know when I realized how crazy it was is because when I was with Atlantic, I wanted to sign Draco. And they were basically like, no. And like, he's like a very dangerous, like LA rapper who passed away. And like, then I'm realizing that the same label is very open to signing New York drill rappers and Chicago drill rappers because they know that they're not going to have to deal with the likelihood of 20 gang members pulling up to their office and causing a scene or whatever. So shit that is local for them is a lot of times way less attractive. And that's part of why we look at the West Coast as being like, you know, kind of behind compared to a lot of these markets, is because a lot of the big rappers who seem like they could have potential off the West Coast kind of a lot of times get shelved prematurely or ignored by the industry.
I could be naive, but I feel like if like any, like I'm thinking like cartel, like in Mexico, like if a cartel person like kills an American, you get like obliterated because you're ruining like tourism and you're bringing all this attention. I feel like if a drill rapper like attacked an exec, I feel like everybody else in the industry would be like, bro,
if they go full Luigi
for like literally, yeah, you're gonna fuck it up for all of us.
If they go full Luigi, it could be real bad. Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah.
Damn, free Luigi.
How long have you both been doing content?
I started with the BMX. Well, really, I was writing BMX blogs and stuff in like 2005, 2006. Then 2012, it became like, oh, okay, I need to really focus on video content. And then switching from BMX shit to hip hop was like 2015, 2016. So almost 10 years of the hip hop adjacent shit.
Yeah, I kind of started making like more like dumb like sketch comedy and stuff like 2015. Like I used to do stand-up comedy like way back in the day. And then like I started doing the like hip hop documentaries like 2019. And then that kind of was like when it took off for me. So like doing it properly, I'd say for the last like 5 years. But like I was trying to get something going on YouTube for like a good 9 years maybe now.
Sure. So you've branched out a lot. And obviously made at least one big career change. And then obviously you've got multiple shows, studio and all this. You're a little bit, I guess, newer in terms of you've done one main thing of content. It feels like a lot of content creators have this big fear point, like anywhere from 2 to 5 years in their career where they kind of want to change up, but they're like really pigeonholed into a certain type of content. And then they get scared about moving out because it means a reduction of views or whatever. Have you thought at all about what's it going to be like after drill rap documentaries? Or are you just like, I'm writing this for a few more years, I'm not thinking about it? Or
I think my content's evolved a lot over the years because like when I started, it wasn't necessarily, it's like I'd always done stuff that was sort of like where the gangster rap and the true crime worlds kind of meet, because true crime's such a big thing on YouTube anyway. You got people like JCS or like Explore With Us doing all this true crime breakdowns. But like I would do videos about label disputes, rappers having beefs, like Rick Ross versus 50 Cent, which isn't a violent feud, but it's like a hip hop feud. But my videos were like 10, 15 minutes at the start. And it's like, I kind of leveled up by doing longer, deeper dives. Like I've got videos that are like 6 hours long now that like really just tell you everything you could possibly know about like this neighborhood that's had this crazy gang war that's been played out in the music. I think for me, like I would like my big dream goal is to do like take this type of content to like a Netflix or like a streaming service and do like a series or like a feature about this kind of stuff I'm into. Like hip hop is like my main passion in life. So I don't want to like depart from that area, but I want to just keep leveling up like the way I approach these stories and making them more epic and like cinematic and stuff. That's like my goal with it really. But
I feel like if you get to the point where you could have a Netflix show, that you're going to be like mega disappointed with it, because you're going to like get in advance, produce the content, you put the content on there, and then you never participate in the value of it or the success, and they just own that shit long term. And I feel like, yeah, the initial bag might be more than you could make from AdSense, but I also feel like, I don't know. I've known a lot of people who did like the documentary thing, and when I really look at it, like there's part of me that feels like it seems extremely attractive, and obviously like just putting shit on YouTube a lot of times doesn't really feel like a satisfactory use of your time. But I also just wonder if the whole Netflix like selling your shit to streaming is really like gonna seem better. Like I feel like you probably would still like to do it just to see what it feels like, but also like just giving up that ownership of shit has got to be tough.
But I'd also like to, like you mentioned The Wire earlier, like, you know, a big part of what I cover is Chicago, gang warfare and the music. Like, I'd love to even create something that's kind of like narrative driven, like a sort of The Wire for the modern era. Because like if you go back and watch The Wire now, it's like, at the time it was a very accurate depiction of like gang life in, Baltimore? Whereas like, it's so dated now as far as like how the streets function. I think that's something I would, like a dream project of mine, to do something that's like narrative driven based on some of these stories, maybe fictionalizing some of these stories that I like to cover in that space. Because I think I think most people wouldn't realize like how crazy these scenes have actually gotten in the modern era. Like, if you go back and watch The Wire now, and it's like so tame compared to what's really going on today in Chicago. So I feel like that would be another lane. But I feel like, yeah, you do probably get screwed over by these streaming services, and that's probably not going to be good.
Yeah, it's always weird to me to see like, how old are you?
31.
31. They're growing up in the gaming space, and then I feel like it affected all of YouTube. There's been this like weird obsessive trade-off where I think with this election in the United States, I think the scales have finally started to tip, where coming from the gaming space, the obsession was always, how do we get them to take us seriously? We want to be on ESPN. We need to have the big guys taking us seriously. And then like over time, it's been this like back and forth of them being like, okay, well, actually, we want to buy into your space. And now, you know, CNN and all the mainstream people have YouTube channels, and they do like shorts and like for YouTube content and stuff. But it feels like in our world, sometimes there's still like this, we grew up with TV, and in our minds, we're thinking like, fuck, like, TV is still like that thing that I really want to be on.
Yeah.
But to like Adam's point, it's funny because I feel like, I don't know like your financial situation, but like it feels like just in looking at like the success of your channel and everything, you could probably self-fund a better product than what Netflix would advance you, because you've already kind of like made it. Like I feel like a Netflix show is a good like thing where I have no identity, I have no established anything, and these guys want to front me $150,000 to make a show, whatever, fuck it, I'm gonna do this, my chance. Whereas, yeah, do you really think you could make a better show on Netflix than you could put out on a YouTube channel? Is it just the idea of having it on a, like, why not like make something like that and then just sell it to Netflix after?
Yeah, no, I mean, that would be a really cool thing to do. I think the way I see it is almost like what I'd love to do on Netflix is to kind of like take these things, because it's like, although I've gotten quite big in my space and like I kind of dominate my little niche that I'm in, it's almost like I want to kind of like take these stories and bring it to the mainstream. And like, I think Netflix is almost like a good vehicle to package up these stories and distribute them in a way that like a wider audience could enjoy them. Like, you know, like my parents watched The Wire back in the day, but like they probably struggled to really understand what's going on in like my videos. Like they've seen some of them, the Jacksonville video, like even my mum was like, oh, I followed that along and like really got to understand what was going on. But I think you're right. And I also feel like I'm overall, like I think just because I quite admire Netflix, I feel like there's a lot of prestige with it. But like on the whole, I much more rate like the DIY YouTube, Twitch kind of approach to media creation than the sort of mainstream overproduced. Because it's like, even now, it's like you see TV shows that are getting produced, all these people that are involved in it, and like, you know, you're running this whole thing on your own today, right? And it's like, you don't need anyone. You don't need to I mean, you've invested in your studio, but like you don't have to pay this enormous crew on like union rates and like doing all of this extra stuff to
and
actually
all the licensing and the figuring out all the bullshit or whatever. Yeah.
So I guess the Netflix thing is almost just like a prestige. That's like a life goal. But to be honest, I love what I do on YouTube, and I just try and do the best I can, like on the platform that I'm on.
Yeah. No, it's I don't think it's very rational, but like I still feel the same thing where like, you know, like I can talk to anybody like for a million different things that I've been involved in that I'm super proud of, that like, you know, debate with Ben Shapiro, like 15 million views, all this blah blah blah. And to an ordinary person, like the eyes kind of glaze over. But if I'm like 7 years ago, there was a mention of me in like a New York Times article. Like, whoa, the New York Times, and I was like, fuck me, whatever, you know. Yeah. So I understand the feeling. Yeah.
But is there anything that you could be offered that would take you away from just streaming, or are you settled on that? Because it's like we're young. It's kind of scary to be like, oh, me streaming on my computer, or me doing podcasts, me doing interviews, whatever. That's kind of a thing I've figured out in my 30s or 40s, and like I don't really see past that, because I don't really see past it. I don't really have like a desire to do like a super high quality documentary. I've thought about it. I do have like some ideas that I feel like could make sense, but ultimately just doesn't really seem that attractive to me. But also, you know, that's the kind of thing that would lend you an extra degree of prestige amongst, you know, people outside your world. But I just feel like YouTube is just it. Like the internet is just it. Like anything outside of that just doesn't really scratch the surface. Like I don't want a fucking show on MSNBC if I could get one.
Do you ever listen to lo-fi hip hop?
The
girl studies to beats.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah.
I used to, growing up, do you guys know what torrenting is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to be on all the.
I was a Pirate Bay guy.
Okay.
For a long time.
Kind of cringe, public site, but that's okay.
Okay, I was what was it, Oink?
Okay, that's what I was going to mention.
I was an Oink guy for a little while. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, being on those sites and discovering new music, and I used to be into like prog rock and prog metal and finding these new bands and listening to stuff was always like a super rewarding experience, but it was pretty intentional. And then nowadays, and it's kind of embarrassing because technically I went to college for music and I have a music background, but it's very easy to like turn on like lo-fi, and then I'm just like listening to whatever bullshit in the background. And I guess my worry, or sometimes I think I try to be pretty aggressive career-wise, but it's very easy when you kind of like fall into the rhythm of streaming and YouTube. And you should know this, and I'm sure it infuriates you, that like you can stream and do shows that are of such low effort and make so much money that the idea of branching out to prepared content is like excruciating, because you know there's going to be a trial and error. Every hour that you spend working on something that's making 1/100th of what you would have made if you were just like fucking streamed anyway. Yeah, it could be hard. But yeah, I worry sometimes. I don't ever want to be like 50 and I'm like, fuck, I should have tried to make like one thing, one prepared piece of content, one something, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, because my kid's school, she goes to school with all these kids whose parents are like working TV. And like sometimes I'll just end up in conversations with the dads, and like they, you know, their whole life is like coming up with an idea and then trying to get like a streaming service to give them like $100,000 to make that thing, and they end up having to produce like a version of it that, you know, agrees with the person who invested in it. All of a sudden they have a say in it, and then, you know, it's going to go on Showtime, or it's going to go on like some fourth, fifth choice streaming platform where like realistically almost nobody's going to see the shit that you're producing for the service, and like that's supposed to be success. And I like see that where like I'm able to basically make whatever I want, but you know, within the confines of like realizing that this basically has to be viral enough to, it has to be big enough. Like you feel free to do whatever you want, but also clearly the incentives are for you to do like a very specific type of content. It's like, it's weird. It's like on one hand you have all this freedom, but on the other hand you have almost no freedom, because you already know that there's only a handful of things on any given time that are going to be like the best performing content you could make.
Yeah, you kind of have to chase the numbers a little bit doing YouTube, but then also I've had, like I was telling you earlier, I've got like passion projects that I've done that I kind of knew weren't going to do well, but like they were important to me, and I like make a loss on a project, but it's like, for me, it's almost like it's got to be something I'm interested in. I might spend a month or two just looking into one artist and like immersing myself in their music. That's all I'll listen to for that month, and it's kind of like, if it's not something I enjoy, if I'm just chasing the numbers, doing something that's going to be popular, I'm going to hate my life. Like, I got to do something I'm interested in. But I was going to ask you, Destiny, is there like a project or a piece of content that you've created that's like the thing that you're most proud of?
Oh, fuck, I hate you. I was just about to ask you both that. I was going to say, what's the last thing you did that you were like really proud of what you did? I think I'm the stuff that I am most proud of is usually like debates that I would consider require like an extensive like depth of knowledge, and being able to approach that and not get completely obliterated or to feel like I'm in my element. So unfortunately the past year has made me feel less proud about these things, because I just realized that all the conversations are dog shit. But like if you would have asked me 2 years ago, could I learn, you know, like the history of Israel Palestine and debate like, you know, world cited scholars like Finkelstein on this topic, you know, with however many months of prep, I would have obviously said this is impossible to do. So I'm proud of like stuff like that. Or, you know, like what would a debate with Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson actually look like? It's like, fuck, I would probably get obliterated. Although now I'm not sure if I feel as happy that I prepared and learned, or if I just feel like it's really just that stupid.
But so like something like the Ben Shapiro debate seemed like a massive thing, like that would kind of, or even like doing stuff with Sam Harris that felt like a big,
yeah, like talking to the people felt cool, but it's just like I just don't know how to. I don't know what it is about this world. Do either of you guys do music?
I dabble a little bit. we did a couple.
We
songs
rap
recently.
a little bit, but I don't know how serious I want to take that. Yeah,
There's got to be. I'm sure you have it from fucking BMX shit. When you meet somebody who is just like, they're just like, whatever their craft is, they're just like at another level. There are people that you meet, it's definitely true in music. I'm sure for you, it must have been true for BMX or whatever. I'm sure in London, there's some guy that knows all the kings and queens. Where you meet a person, you're like, oh my God, you're like on another level. This is like a moment in an anime where the protagonist, or like in a movie where you see like that's like hopefully what I am by the climax. Like this guy's just on another level. And on in the politics space, those people don't exist, like because nobody would watch them, nobody cares. So it's just people who can repeat the most asinine talking points over and over again. Like I'm debating, you know, with Jordan Peterson, the same shit that I would debate with my mom and dad. It's like there's no more prep or intellectuality to it. And it just feels like so stupid. So that's like a frustrating thing, I think, for my Yeah,
you seem like the top of the mountain. I mean, it's like content for me used to be, we're gonna have a van and we're gonna like have a bunch of dudes on the BMX team and we're gonna get in the van like almost every day and go out and film bike tricks And then after like 2 years, we're going to make a video and it's going to be like 45 minutes, but it's going to be everything we did for those 2 years. And we're going to put this out. And yeah, it's only going to sell a couple thousand copies or whatever, but the sections are going to go online. And this is just like a yearbook, like a encapsulation of all these amazing times and hard work that we put in. And then that has turned into me just like having conversations with people on camera, and then you put it out and it's like you get to read a bunch of comments about it. And every once in a while you'll do an interview that has like real reverberations that'll have like a huge impact, and people will talk about it for years and years and years. But it's such a flooded marketplace at this point, whereas like in 2016 I felt like I had the whole underground rap world very like much open to me. Like none of this stuff had really
been explored
done.
or mined,
everyone I wanted to talk to, everyone I wanted to talk to hadn't really talked to anybody on camera. And now it's like a rapper could have like 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers, and there's like some guy in their hometown that wants to interview them. So in a lot of ways, it's like the magic of why I started wanting to interview rappers has kind of vanished, and I'm always just trying to like figure out how to move this thing in different directions. A lot of that has become like just having like a crew of dudes who get together a couple times a week and just have conversations and trying to build something interesting out of that. But even that is like not nearly as unique or specialized as like what I was doing in the first place.
Something for both of you, I guess. This is so hard to do. Do you ever feel, not to turn this into a therapy session, do you ever feel isolated or feel like it's really hard to get a crew of people together that you jive with, you get along with all of them, but they're also like
good, like good at
sure,
the act
good
of
at
talking
that,
about shit on
yeah,
camera.
good at that, and the really hard one, third time sometimes, like has the discipline to actually like follow through. That feels like the hardest thing. Like I have so many memories like of my childhood where I think of people where I'm like if this person was still around, oh my God, it would be so like I have a friend that I was really close to. When we did poker, I drive and pick him up every Friday and bring him back, and we'd play like these weekend poker games and shit. Mm-hmm. When I was 20, I would always think that if he would have made it to when I was starting to stream, it would have been so good. And now when I look back on that, not to speak ill of the dead or whatever, but I'm actually, maybe I'm glad that he wasn't there, because I don't know if he would have had the discipline to actually follow through. And it's so frustrating sometimes that there are people who are like, actually the best example I can think of is fucking John Zerka. That's a guy who is like a future multimillionaire star talent, but he needs somebody to rein him in because he doesn't have the discipline for it. Yeah, fuck, that's so frustrating.
No, I was thinking about that with Draco the other day. Is that I'm, like, as sad as I am that he died, there's part of me that's thankful that I didn't get to see him become like a guy who goes on everybody's fucking stream every other week. It's like there's like and even though that was like 4 years ago, it's just like the content landscape has just become so much more bleak that I feel like it takes legitimate generational talents and waters them down unless they have the actual self-control to avoid a lot of that shit.
I mean, he's an interesting example, right? Because like I followed him closely. I covered his story and his death and stuff, and it was like he was somebody that had such a great talent for music, but he just couldn't stop insulting these rival gang members, making fun of this guy that got killed, just constantly poking the bear, and that ultimately ended up making him lose his life. And it's like you say, discipline. If he'd had the discipline to just focus on his artistry and stay away from the street stuff, that he was really bigger than by that point.
But okay, even think about, I have all these friends from the BMX part of my life that like are realistically some of my favorite people to talk to, and we're in the group chat all day talking about sending different links to BMX clips back and forth, etc. But none of those guys would make any sense on No Jumper as a co-host because they don't know about rap like that. And it's like there's a lot of people like that I've been friends with over the years that I truly love and cherish them and think that they're amazing people, and I'm glad that we have relationships off camera. But ultimately, they're just not really like useful to me in terms of what I'm creating on camera. And also, yeah, I'm thankful that I don't really get to see them get content brain and get their fucking soul eaten alive by the incentives of doing this kind of shit on a week-to-week basis, because I've seen so many people like part of me realizes with No Jumper that it's like it's like an exposure machine. Like it's just you take somebody who has some kind of energy around them, like Sharp, my piss drinking friend. He was like a dude who was getting like millions of views on Soft White Underbelly by just being like talking about being a pimp, and we bring him on No Jumper because I was like basically like, yo, I want you to like do sit downs with girls because he comes from this whole pimp world. we start doing that. We start feeding him all these different girls and talent to sit down with, and he just like wasn't really good at the conversational part of it. So he'd just scream at them and like totally unload on them, and it was like getting like millions and millions of views. But then like as time goes by and he's on the channel over and over and over, it just became like nobody wanted to watch. He went from getting millions of views to getting, 10, 20,000 views. And, I don't feel bad because he's a shithead, but then at the same time, I kind of do feel bad because he like lost that aura that had him being like a million view guy when he would go on podcasts, and it turned into him being somebody that like almost nobody was interested in. And I've seen that play out with a lot of different people where like there's this arc on No Jumper where like you get introduced, and if they like you, you get built up, and they really fuck with you, and then at some point you do something that kind of pokes a hole in who you are, and then the fucking fall off. And then that audience, as much as they enjoyed building you up, they also really enjoy watching you plummet into being on their level.
Yeah. Have you seen the SpongeBob like ripped your pants fucking episode? Any idea what I'm talking about?
I don't think so. I'm too old for SpongeBob.
Fuck you.
I didn't grow up on it.
Too old for SpongeBob.
I grew up on Sesame Street.
I'm sorry, yeah, the Sesame Street episode. But it's describing that there was like I think he's at the beach and he leans over and he rips his pants and everybody laughs. And for the first like few minutes of the episode, he rips his pants over and over again and everybody's it's the most hilarious thing ever. But then eventually people are like, bro, this is old. Like, get a new gimmick. And he's like, oh no. It's funny because there's this in economics and sometimes even in the content creation space, there's like this concept of like a first mover advantage. And sometimes people will say things like, oh, like if you weren't there in the beginning, would you even be known today? And it's like, maybe not. But most people that were there at the beginning aren't still there. Like you talk about first mover advantage. I think of things like fucking like Skype. And then I look at how Zoom explodes during COVID and it's like, the fuck happened there? Or I think of something like Vine and I'm like, damn, how did Vine die? And TikTok is like the most profitable fucking company in the world.
I mean, Twitter bought Vine and then they just didn't understand the value of short form content, which if you want to look at like the current economics of it, it's still not great. It's still like, for the creators, for the people selling advertising on top of it, et cetera, like it's not ideal, but for sure, like Twitter didn't have the long-term vision of like why that shit was going to be important. I don't know.
I feel like there's another factor of like the overexposure thing. I feel like if you're the real deal and you really have like a next level talent or something really special to offer, that overexposure, because Destiny, you're live, you're streaming all the time, you're debating, you've got all different types of content flying out all the time, but I feel like you're really the real deal when it comes to being super high quality debate, research, intellectual content.
Of course.
And like you don't get that oversaturation problem because I feel like every time you turn up, it's like you deliver on that expectation. Sharp, on the other hand, it was slowly unraveling that like, oh, this guy's not really a pimp. He doesn't really seem like he knows what he's doing with girls like that, like the way that he's portrayed himself. And that overexposure kind of exposed, like the emperor has no clothes type thing. Whereas like, if you were actually shit at debating and like slowly you stream it every day and it slowly unravels that like Destiny doesn't know shit about what he's talking about, that would happen. But it's not really possible because you kind of are what you're portraying yourself as,
Yeah, and there's a lot of like stuff that just goes into being able to, like, as stupid as and privileged as it sounds in the content creation space, like to be able to just work a fucking job. Like, can you show up and do work and actually film stuff? And it's easy for people to pop off sometimes on one thing, but then they can't actually show up and like do anything consistent. And it's like, fuck yeah.
Never mind like pivot out of that thing and like figure out something else that will work. Because like once you become really entrenched in doing the same type of content, it becomes extremely difficult to figure out how you're gonna change.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Yeah.